I knew him well. The only stars that we knew were the ones shine in the night. I knew him well.
Any memorabilia, anyone who had ever played with Steve Gaines before he became famous, they would like to have a history of Steve Gaines as a young man and the different musicians he was with and different bands he played in. And that's when I showed up to the museum with the memorabilia my mother had saved over the years.
This is Bobby Hop Poole. Bobby sounds strange, we always call him Hop. And I'm Sammie Ketcher. And we got together because of the Adoption Museum, because his brother Dee was with us in two bands, Magic Kitchen and the Cellar Door. I'll start from the beginning. I'll take you all the way back when I remember Steve. The first group that Steve was in was called the Ravens, and I believe that Johnny Burroughs, who's the only surviving member of that band, what did he tell you about the guitar, Steve?
Bud Gaines, Steve's dad, came up to Johnny Burroughs, who was playing at a local club outside of Miami, and had a brown Fender Mustang, which we have a photograph of that we can show, that he had bought for Steve. It only had 2 strings on it. And he asked Johnny Burroughs, and Johnny will tell the story, that if he could put some strings on it for it, tune it up for him so his boy could learn how to play guitar. And Johnny said, yeah, and he said, well, who's going to teach him how to play it? And Bud Gaines said, well, I guess you are. So Johnny Burroughs started giving Steve Gaines lessons, and they ended up forming the band The Ravens. So
yeah, the Ravens was Jerry Sanders, who was a drummer for them and became a drummer for the Cellar Door later on. Archie Osborne, who was from Pitcher, his dad was a druggist there, and of course Steve and Johnny. And I think Jerry and Steve were both classmates at Miami High, and I think they're about sophomores, weren't they?
Yeah, same age, yes. So
something like that. And Steve started that young before me, and so did Jerry. So after a while, the Beatles came out. Wasn't too much long after that, and I got the bug to play. I was in college as a music major, a trumpet major, and I went to see Dee had a band, and in that band was Ace Moreland. But Ace played drums, didn't play guitar, and Ace became a really good, great guitar player, and played throughout the South and has several albums out. But when I saw him, it was Jim, his brother, Jim Poole, and Dee, and
Jim Crew.
Jim Crew? Dolan. Jim Dolan.
Jim Dolan on
and
the
Rogers.
Right, Jim and Roger Dolan, yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I went out to see him in a thing called the Mud Hut in Miami, Oklahoma. It was a team thing. I told Dee, I'd like to be in a band, and I'd like to play bass. I'd never played bass before, but I wanted to do it. So Dee, he could sell, ice cubes in Alaska. It's kind of Dee was, and he's really the spark plug behind these bands. If it wasn't for Dee, he's the one who's got Johnny Rose playing, John Moss playing,
Ace
Moreland playing. There's several guys. Dee was what Don Malik called a little spark plug.
Yes, he was.
Because he was.
Yes.
He could really organize. He could sell. He'd get out and talk to those people. Promote.
Yeah.
Oh, he was really the thing that got the whole thing going. And in my opinion, the Miami music scene, as far as our age level is concerned, Dee was the key behind it, because he got out and pitched it all. He was a good little singer. He was kind of like Eric Burton and James Brown tossed together.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. The girls really liked that little idiot.
Yes, they did.
It was like Malachi. They liked him too.
Yes, they did.
But anyway,
they were good bands, though. They were good bands. They played good music. They really did.
As time went along, we were playing. Steve would come to see us. We'd go to see him. We thinking, man, it'd be nice to do something with that guy. And as it was, his brother Jim gets drafted, and the other boys, they weren't developing too much. So Dee decided to make a change. Talked with Steve. They were breaking up, and the Ravens were breaking up, and so we put together the Cellar Door. Now, I'd been playing bass about 3-4 months.
Not long.
Yeah.
We did a great job.
And
practiced hard.
Yeah, I really learned to play in his front room.
Yes, he did.
With his mom and dad patiently listening to me play. I was there every afternoon. I'd get off work, I'd go in there and play bass for 3 or 4 hours, learning Paul Revere and the Raiders and the Kinks and the Beatles, whatever's on record. The big thing for me was, as being a music major, I always read the stuff. I didn't have to play it by ear. When Dee said, we're going to play this, I think the first thing we played was, we got to get out of this place. It starts with the bass. So where's the music? He said, music? Up there. It's playing. So that's when I started playing and really learning. That's what really got me hooked, because I never thought about doing that. I knew when I played in jazz band, I had to take solos. You just made up stuff. You could play about anything and think, that was pretty good. But this was, you had to play what was on the record,
And sound as close to it as you possibly could, because that's what they were trying to do, because that's what people wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And my brother Dee could sing it, and Sam hit the bass part great. He got that bass part down good.
Yeah. It took us a little while, but we got several jobs, and when Steve come to hear us, he thought, hey, this might work. Yeah. So sure enough, when they broke up and we broke up, then we put two things together. Jerry Sanders came, from the Ravens, and Steve from the Ravens, and it was me and Dee. And then we found another guy from Chautauqua, Kansas, named Bob Withrow.
Yes. And
Bob was the wow man.
Yeah.
But he was the best guitar player, much, much better than anybody around. His family was from Illinois. They lived in Chautauqua, but his mother was one of those Pentecostal piano players, that plays every chord and every arpeggio in the song.
Yes, yes.
And his family came that way. So Bob came from a background. His uncle in Illinois was playing professionally.
Yes.
Bob was up and running and even opened for the Beatles.
In Chicago.
In Chicago, I guess it was.
Opening band in Chicago for the Beatles in 1964, I think.
Yeah. So Bob was, oh, we're not worthy.
Good guitar player.
Yeah, great. He still is today.
Yes.
He comes over and we play. We're going to record an album this winter of his stuff.
Yeah.
Be interesting. Anyway, that got started. I was in Pittsburgh at the time. I was going to college there. And I would come home on nights to practice and on weekends. And we played every weekend. We got hooked up with a guy named Richard Fay, who had a booking agency in Joplin. So we auditioned for him, and it was at the Legion Hall in Miami. And we were just playing top 40, and we had it all there. Dee had the lead voice. I could sing high harmonies, play bass. Steve played great rhythms and leads, and sang middle things and lead too. And then Bob sang middle, and Jerry sang. Anyway, whatever came up, we could do all the vocals, even the. But we could do all those tunes. Like Johnny Rivers, whatever's on the radio, we could cover, and cover all the parts.
Yeah.
Bob could do all the leads. Steve had all the rhythms down, all the chords were right. Everything was going. So when he heard us, it was, hey, and we played every Friday and Saturday throughout, that fall and in the spring. When school was over, we played mostly for teens, and we played in a nightclub in Oklahoma City, which we found out we don't like nightclubs. That whole routine of that, but it was good Christmas money.
Yes.
We did the Christmas break, and then.
It gave Steve Gaines enough money to buy a Super Beetle amp.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we did it. So Steve could buy a Super Beetle.
Yeah.
And they were expensive, about $1,200.
Yes, they were.
Back in the day, which I don't know what that is these days, but it's $5,000 or more.
That's right.
I mean, they were, and we all had them.
Yeah.
We all had them. We all had our favorite things. I had my Hofner bass like Paul McCartney.
Absolutely. They were good bands. They booked good jobs, and they got paid really good for them. That was a good time for Steve and for my brothers, for Sam.
I put myself through college, doing that on the weekends.
Yeah.
What year was that?
67, 66,
66, 7, and right at the start of 68, early start.
Yeah.
And at that same time when they helped me develop the light show. We put the Blitz Light Show together to go with the band, because at that time light shows were just getting started with the Jefferson Airplane and some of the Wonderland Club in San Francisco, and out in L.A. Steve and Jerry, in summer of '66, Jerry Sanders and Steve Gaines went to California on vacation, and they saw. They went to the Allman Brothers' house.
Yeah.
And
Whiskey a Go-Go.
Whiskey a Go-Go.
All those places.
Yeah.
Check it out.
And when they saw the light shows that were being put on, they were more projector type than what we had. We had the strobe lights and we had the colored lights. But then when they come back to the idea of the projectors, that's when Sam, who have always had a good job, provided us with the money to buy the projectors to start the Blitz Light Show projection. And that turned into be a good part of the band.
The Blitz was every bit as popular as the band. How we sold and what we did, what they did to the Blitz was the magic behind it. It was like the icing on the cake.
People like the combination of the music plus everything going on behind it. I just was at the time, it just fit good.
And Dee, again, is the one started thinking about these lights, because all that bands had back then was that circular Christmas tree light, change colors. That's what they would use.
Yeah.
And if you had 2 or 3 of them, woo, it was something else.
Yeah.
But Dee started thinking about strobe lights then, and talked to Hop, and they built all these light boxes with colored lights in them.
Synchronized the music to the lights, so when the music changed, the lights would change, which made it even, it picked it up.
Song ended, blackout.
Yeah.
It was professional.
It was. We worked it out.
Anyway.
We booked a lot of jobs with it, didn't we?
Yeah, and he was so good at it that Eagle Pitcher in Joplin, unbeknownst to us, had this Essentia Light division where they were doing that. Only their lights had sensors in it, because he used to synchronize it with, manually.
Yes.
This thing would do it automatically and give him a chance to do something else, like slideshows and projectors, and then the overhead stuff that we found out later. You have to put it all together. So by the time '67 came around, Jerry and Steve had brought back that. Jerry was really into it. He learned how to do it and showed Hop.
Yeah.
And then they practiced on it.
Yeah, took off on it.
So that year we started the light show, and then boom, we were off again. Okay? Now, the thing that happened in there, Dee left the group because we more or less got tired of playing top 40, which we shouldn't have, but because that's what people liked. We started doing album stuff, and Dee wanted to do more top 40, so he started being Peach Mob. Okay, and then when he left, I guess it was winter of '67.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. We kept going, kept playing. Both bands were doing real well.
Yeah.
We played the opposite proms or whatever all the time. Yeah. But in the '67 is when this came about. Whoa! This is the disc of the Cellar door, the only one in existence that I know of, and it says 5/4/67. So it's May the 4th, 1967. We went to Tulsa at KVO Studios and cut this. And we did this because a guy named Jim Glossop, who was a friend of Steve, and Jim had played bass with Steve years ago. He was starting and never got into it very much. He moves to Tulsa, and starts a regular life. But Jim also knew the guy that was in a group called Paul and Paula, which had a #1 hit in jukebox in '63, February '63.
Hey Paula, yes.
Called Hey Paula. Hey, hey Paul, I want to marry you. Hey, hey Paula. This guy's really name is Ray Hildebrand. It's Paul. And he was a student at the Bible Seminary in Houston at that time. And Jim Glossop, the guy who financed this thing, talked to him and said, "Hey, I got a great group. I want you to hear him." He said, "Well, I can give you some names out there," because he'd been back then in '63 and had that #1 hit. So we thought, wow, this is good, So that's why we cut this album. It's got 3 original tunes on it, 2 by me and 1 by Bob, and it has some cover tunes. First one on there's My Back Pages. Steve's singing it. He sang one of my songs that I did there. And this will be available at the museum. We're going to get CDs of it. I don't know when, but we're working on it as we speak with the computers and putting everything to it. We got a lot of the skips and bumps by a good friend of ours named Ron Ray.
Yes.
We got to do this video. Captain Ron Ray isotoped it. And
He did a great job. This is
Yeah.
probably some of the earliest recordings of Steve Gaines. I
Yep.
don't know if he had recorded anything before this or not. He did with the radio.
yes, he did have a 45 with the Ravens, but we can't locate it. I don't know if Johnny had that.
I think he may. We'll find out September when he comes back.
Yeah,
We'll bring it
we're
back.
hoping it does. So we'll have a sort of a discography of Steve, you know, from the very beginning to the end. And you can really see how he grows and grows and blooms. Because when he was with us, he was just a high school kid, was real good. We never thought anything about it. He developed after, you know, he really came on strong, as you all
He
know.
developed his voice as well as guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, when he first started, when he was young, he could sing, but he wanted to sing better and just kept getting better and better at it. So he got
Yeah.
really
I talked to him.
built
We was talking about our hillbilly accents.
it. Yeah.
You can hear it on this record here.
Yeah.
And I'm going, nah, because I was a music major, and I'm going, no, you can't do that. They're like, oh, what?
But the original songs on this record that Sam was holding up was so good. They asked me to take it to California in the summer of '67. This was
Yep.
in May. So in June, John Brooks from Miami and Frank, I can't remember Frank's last name, from Tulsa. He was a friend of Jim Glossop's. We went to Hollywood and took this record to. We played it for Capitol Records. We played it for Decca. We played it for Mercury. And when we played it for Capitol Records, we got a real good reception. We went in, walked up to the receptionist right off the street, Stone Cold from Oklahoma, showed him the record, and I said, "We're a band. I'm representing the band from Oklahoma, and we got some songs here. We'd like to see if a producer would like to hear them." And so she made a call upstairs, and she said, "Go up to the 4th floor. They're waiting on you," and gave us the room number. And I was really surprised that we got to go up there and go do that. And we met the guy. He was a really nice guy. Put the record on, listened to the whole side. Was really happy, just glad he could hear a good band. And he said, "When can you get these guys out here?" And I said, "Man, as soon as we get back home and let them know," because he said, "Well, they're good and tight. They sound good. They sing good together." He said, "You get them out here and have them come see me." So we left there just kind of on cloud nine. And a side note to that is we didn't know at the time, and he kept talking about Oklahoma to us, about being from Oklahoma. And at that time we didn't know, but in his basement was the
Wrecking Crew.
with Leon Russell from Tulsa,
Barney Castle.
and all these
Muskogee.
guys, Oklahoma
Lee
residents.
Campbell from
Yes,
Arkansas.
making all these hit records for him down there.
Yeah.
So when he heard Oklahoma, he just like, "Oh boy, these guys can play," and he heard them, and he was really happy. And I brought the record back. I let him know what the guy had said. Everybody was really excited. And about the time we were getting things together to start going out there, the draft took one of our guitar players, Bob Withrow, got drafted. So
Yeah.
the Cellar Door was, again, the draft had fallen, another band had fallen victim to that.
The Jim Glossop connection,
Yes.
when he got, he had this made, and he paid for it all. The KVO studio where Bob Wills recorded. We had to do it at midnight, the late hours, or cheap time. So we played a gig and drove to Tulsa. We got there, I don't know, about 2
A
o'clock.
little late, yeah.
Whatever it was, and recorded all night doing these 7 songs. And we get it all done, and Jim tells the Hey Hey Paula guy, Ray Hildebrand, he says, "Boys," he says, "it's evil business. Stay away from it. You don't need to be doing that. It's full of corruption. I know. I've been there. I'm not going to tell you anymore. Just forget about it. Don't do it." And well, he's at the Baptist seminary. What else would he say? I don't know how he got on the record. I never understood all that.
Yeah.
But when we heard that, the bubble went out. Bob gets drafted, and just so we recouped, and through the summer, I had quit too. I was fed up. Here we had 2 golden chances and nothing. Anyway, I sold all my equipment. I sold it to Gary Clark, and they formed a band. And I don't know, he was part of this. I don't know what happened with that.
That was
Didn't last.
Was that
Yeah. No, I think that happened later.
That was later, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, it didn't go anywhere, and Steve and Dee once again get together in the late summer of '67. After all that. So Dee and Steve get back together and cooked up a band called Magic Kitchen. So he was always cooking up stuff, And I think Steve got credit for coming up
Yes,
with
he
that
did.
name.
He did.
Jerry Sanders came up with the Cellar Door.
He did.
The Cellar Door, if you look at Wikipedia, it says that the Cellar Door are the 2 most beautiful words of the English language. Where they get that, I don't know. I don't know if I believe it or not. That's how we got the name.
That's right.
And it was also the name of some club in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
But,
two different reasons.
anyway, that's how those names came about. I didn't play bass anymore, but I was a trumpet major, so I played trumpet. So they called me up, hey, we're going to form a horn band. You know, Blood, Sweat, and Tears was coming up, kind of Chicago, and there were different bands that had horns in it. Even the Beatles had used horns, so we thought, well, why not? So I joined as a trumpet player, and Gary Clark came back and played trombone at first. He didn't last very long. Clark Rand came in and took his place. So the main bulk of the Magic Kitchen was trombone players, was Clark Rand. Clark just died, this spring.
Yes, he did. He's a good guy. Good
Great.
trombone player. Great personality.
Oh, yeah. We called him Finney. He had this Fina, a Fina shirt at the gas station. Chris Caceres, who was Spanish, go, yeah, man, what's this Fina? You Finney, man. So we started calling him Finney. Then he was a wimp, so we called him Finney Wimp. Anyway, we put that together, and by that time, the light show had even grown more. He had 8mm projectors, and
Yes.
3 of them going right.
We had Joe Davis, who's a great artist from Joplin, and a musician. He joined me in the light show, and we had John Catt also helped with the light show before that with the Cellar Door and with the Pink Peach Mob. He started doing lights with the Cellar Door when I was working with the Pink Peach Mob. We both went back and forth, but I want to give both those guys credit for really helping me. They're really good at everything.
Because the reason people came was the music and the light show. They put up a cheesecloth thing that we played behind so the light show could be seen.
Yes.
And if you've never seen, well, perhaps with this interview, we hope the background will be some of that light show
Yeah,
stuff.
we're going to try to.
And a lot of the pictures and stuff will be with us. That went on. We played all that fall at one particular place called the Gay Pearita.
Yes.
Here, D. Poole once again. Miami and all of us musicians, we all had long hair and were into different things that they didn't approve of. Vietnam was raging like crazy, and I was going to college, so I got deferred. And then when the lottery system came up, I came up 348, so I was out. I didn't have to do it. D had a punctured eardrum, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Sure did.
He got out. Later on, Steve, when they had the lottery, Steve got number 1.
His birthday,
September 14th was the first one drawn.
Sure was.
Yeah.
First lottery.
So, he got married.
And that day, with them taking 50,000 guys a month across the United States in selective service, in Miami, Oklahoma, there would be 30 to 50 guys a month out of just that small county be inducted into the military. So if you graduated high school, you either were physically enabled, you joined the Army or the military, or you went to school, because that's what was going on.
Yeah.
So most of us stayed in school.
And it was hot and heavy.
We have a lot of good friends that went to Vietnam.
And died.
Some of them didn't come back, that's right.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it was a traumatic time in America, sure was.
It influenced everything we did.
It did.
How can we, we were all against the war, of course. We didn't see it as being a coward or whatever. We just knew that it was politically or morally, and that is morally, not politically, it was morally to us wrong. His dad was in the 101st Airborne in World War II. He gave us a great insight of what really happens. Plus, a lot of the other guys. I won't get into that.
We totally respect all the guys that went over there and what they did. They were our friends. We cared about them. And to this day, it bothers us that the ones that are injured from it still suffer from it.
Yeah, it was nothing against those guys.
No, nothing against the country either. It was just that I wish they would have fought that war to win it. I think it would have been a different deal. It's just a bad time in America, and it.
Well, our friends that went over came back and said, "Don't go. It's not something screwy."
Yeah.
Because we take something, then we have to retake it and retake it. Something's screwy.
Yeah.
There was a definite dissension. Anyway, this political thing that was going on affected us all. And eventually,
Yes.
led to the dismantling of the band at times. Anyway, we played at the Pearita because Dee gets in there and talks to the
Lance,
owner,
yes.
Lance Story,
Yeah.
about a band. And the Pearita is a big wooden frame gymnasium-sized building, a huge
Built
stage.
in the 1920s, it's a ballroom. As for
Yeah, it's a ballroom.
it's a coal mining area of southeast Kansas, and all the people were from a certain area of Europe where they loved to polka and party. And they came there and they coal mined and they partied and they built the Pearita for a place. Duke Ellington, they brought Duke Ellington in. They brought all the big polka bands in.
Yep.
In the day, Bob Wills played there. The Gay
Yeah.
Pearita has got a great history. And when Dee found this place, it still was wide open with the big stage and no air conditioning. You got to imagine this building. It's a big white, looks like a big auditorium built out in the middle of a Kansas prairie at a four-corner intersection with the stop signs. And here's this big, huge building with all these open windows for the draft to come through at night to cool the people down dancing. Big balcony upstairs, and it had a nice arch stage with a nice archway, all white, perfect for the light show and the band. And when they set up in there, we stayed there 6 months to a year, maybe,
Yeah.
just playing. Packed it every Friday and Saturday night. Probably 500-600 people a night.
I would say
at
so.
least, yeah. Great music, though. The band was really tight. Played a lot of good Chicago music, good Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Played their own music, too, at that time. They were writing their own songs. It was going good. It was a really good place. And a lot of guys, I think Steve developed a lot there. I think
Oh, yeah.
he'd sing, did a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All has got all kinds of good experience there.
absolutely.
Johnny Rose was in that band.
Yeah.
Chris Caceres. I was on trumpet. Art Rand on trombone. Ronnie Brooks was the drummer.
Oh, yeah, we got to bring Brooks in. He's so good on those drums. That's
Oh,
another
yeah.
young man, Dee met Ronnie Brooks when he was 13 years old, I think. And he went with us to Dallas, Texas in 1969 to watch the Texas Pop Festival. And we had to get permission from his mother for him to take him with us. So we had to kind of watch him for a little bit, but it was great. Brooksy turned out to be one of the best drummers. Good guy, good person.
Yeah.
And I'd like to mention, too, Sam was talking a while ago about the Pearita. The reason Dee found that was there wasn't any social media back in 50 years ago when all this was going on. The way you made it with the band was you got out and you hustled. You put posters up, you had them printed, you paid to have them printed. You go out and you put the time and the date where you're going to be. You go to every gas station, grocery store, mom and pop place, every corner you could stop, and you put those signs up and let people know there's going to be a dance. My brother Dee was great. We would spend a whole day just driving all over the four-state area putting the posters
Yeah.
for that.
He's
Coming
the
week.
reason,
Yeah.
and Jim and Hop, the reason that band sold as well as it did, because they advertised it.
Yeah.
It was like a sales force out there. They went everywhere. You look up and wherever, Crestline, Kansas, the post office would be
Yeah, wherever we'd go, and we'd try to get a spot on. We'd buy spots on the radio back then. Radio was still pretty expensive, but you could buy a few spots. And we started booking Memorial Hall on our own. We started renting the hall and booking it, and it would hold 900 to 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So we started doing that and had some really good. The Magic Kitchen Band ended up being the opening band for B.J. Thomas when he came to Joplin for Memorial Hall.
Yeah.
And Strawberry Alarm Clock and
that's Memorial Hall too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think-
Vanilla Fudge. I did light shows with Vanilla Fudge in Springfield.
Yeah. The Magic Kitchen also
Yes.
got a 45. Out of the Night and I Still Want Your Love. That was our 45. And you've got one, I've got
This is
one.
going to be going to the museum. My copy is going to be going to the museum or one of the other. Yeah, I've already given it to them.
Well, they can show one side and
Yeah, we can do both.
show the other side. That's why I gave them two of mine. So they could show both sides.
Good idea.
And those are the only two left.
Yes, I think so. There may be one other copy. I don't know. That was recorded in Springfield live after midnight in a club called Happy Hill.
Yeah, half of it was
Yeah.
burnt down later.
They brought out a portable recorder and set it up out front and set it in the van. And then when you hear these songs, you got to remember this is after a 4-hour gig. Everybody's
Yeah.
really tired. You hear Dee's voice crack a little bit but they still played good type music. It was good. Johnny Rose played some good guitar lead in that.
Yeah.
He always plays some really good.
Dee's singing lead on that and Steve back up.
Yeah.
The harmonies in it. Yeah. After the Magic Kitchen, that lasted till seemed like the summer times when everything always fell apart.
Fall of '69.
Yeah. And I believe that's when Steve started Round Line. But John knows more about that. So he'll continue on with the story. That's about all we have. So, been great talking to y'all.
If you all have any memorabilia you'd like to bring to the Dobson Museum, even a year from now, 5 years from now, if you find something that you think they would like to have, they're going to have a really nice display, and they're going to let the musicians from this area be recognized, which we think is really great because there's some good guys there. So thank you.
Yeah. He's a love man.
I knew him well.